Howdy folks, Nigel over at Bushcraft PREPPER has rattled my cage again. Him and Monty over there, who, by the way, I've noticed are approaching 1,000 subscribers. It's not going to take much to sort of push him over the line there, so if you're subscribed to my channel and you like my content, there's a good chance you'll like his. Lots of little gems of information over there on bushcraft and prepping, tips and tricks, hacks, presented to you with a snappy delivery. So just head on over there, look at his content, see if you like it, give him a sub. Anyway, he's tagged me. He recently put out a video, 5 tips for beginners for wild camping. I'm not native to these lands. I'm currently down here in Trinidad, West Indies, bottom of the Caribbean chain there, just off of the Venezuelan coast, South American coast there, about 15 miles off. I've been in this environment for the better part of 20 years now, although I'm not native, and before that a little bit in the Philippines and Malaysia. So I think I can speak to some of the little bits and pieces, the little things that I've come across. By way of a disclaimer first, what I'm going to talk about is more of the practicalities of it, but you might even call this the golden rule, the first rule. Tropical environments are broadly similar throughout the world, but the political environments are not. And there are places in the world that are very much more dangerous than others. You wouldn't go wild camping in certain places in Colombia and Nicaragua, it would be foolhardy. So you'd probably call that rule number 1. It's not like some of the more, I don't know how you'd call it, better organised places then, where you've got campsites, you've got maybe a better system of law and order, less lawlessness, etc. You're at risk if you're on your own in the bush. It's not recommended, of course, but that's sort of one of the first things really. You have to do some homework on your environment, make sure that you're not putting yourself in danger. Of course, there can be generally safe places, safe countries with dangerous areas within them. So again, the usual rules apply. You file a hike plan, where you're going to be, when you expect to be there, how many people are with you, etc., etc. So that's sort of by way of a preface to that. I'm not really focusing on that side of things, just more on the sort of practicalities of wild camping and tropical camping particularly. A little bit of a Google search will provide plenty of examples of people that have underestimated this. Obviously there's an element of risk wherever you go, whatever you do. It's part of the reason why we do it, because it's a little bit unusual or unconventional, but you've got to sort of balance that off, and local knowledge is the only way to do that. People that have just blundered on, totally disregarding the geopolitics, if you like, the internet is strewn with examples of those guys coming unstuck. So I'd call that termite nest. That's what I'd call that. I'd call that the golden rule, as I say. So the tropics is just a marvel. It's a wonderful place. It's held fascination for me. It never gets old for me. There's always something to see, something moving, something new. It's full of critters. That's why I love it, and most people love it. But of course, because it's full of critters, that causes a problem too. And so the first thing I'm going to cover is insects. These guys won't hurt you. You have to protect yourself against the insects, mosquitoes being the chief of them, but not the only one. This menace comes in many flavours. There's something locally, it's a type of chigger, and it lives in the leaf litter. So at home you might sort of use your boot to clear a space, get through the leaf litter just so there's no risk of the fire spreading when you start it. That is a bad idea here. Do it with a stick, because they will get up your trouser leg in droves. They don't, contrary to popular belief, this type doesn't burrow into your skin, but what it does is kind of chews a hole in your skin, injects something to keep the blood flowing while it eats, but that also stiffens up the wall of the wound, the edges of the wound, on a very small scale. And when the chigger is long gone, those things healing up is an indescribable torture. You can tell it's chiggers and not mosquitoes, because you'll usually find the collection of bites up around where your clothing is restricted, like your sock line or even up at your belt line. They'll crawl up your trouser leg without biting you until they can't pass your belt line, and they find a bit of soft flesh, and you'll find a kind of a row of their bites there. Insect bites don't sound all that serious, but they're very serious. They can become infected. Obviously they carry diseases, I'm going to come to that later. But they're knocking life points off. They're just very, they're miserable. You're uncomfortable constantly, and in the case of these things, you're actually being tormented. So leave the undisturbed leaf litter. If you've got to sling a hammock or make a little wild camp, then you don't disturb the leaf litter. Don't clear a space with your boot. Use a stick, and you certainly, you get some books or sources that will tell you that you can gather leaf litter and bracken to make a makeshift bed, stuff it in a bag, and you've got a nice soft mattress. That's something you would not do in the tropics. You're basically gathering every horror together and inviting them over for dinner. So don't do that. To that end, when you're wild camping, it's worth almost any sacrifice to get up off the ground. Again, I'm not talking about campsites, I'm talking about camping out in the brush, in the bush. A hammock is the way to go. At least it gets you off the ground and out the way of the majority of these things. One thing that I've learned about chiggers is that they like shady glades, which is of course where we go. We're looking for a bit of shade, a bit of shelter, and you can see all those sunny patches in the background there. They don't like that. They don't like to be anywhere where the sun touches and they're going to be slowly poached. It's quite hot, so they like it cool and shady under the leaf litter or in the bracken. If you follow me regularly, you may have seen me burning these in the bush. You can get these in most tropical places. They're called coxettes or mosquito coils. You can light one end or both ends actually. Prop them up somewhere where they're not going to burn anything. Downwind of where you make camp, just slightly downwind of yourself. Because mosquitoes go by the CO2 in your breath. That's how they find you. So they swim up the stream of your exhaled breath, your CO2, and then they circle down the thermocline of your body and then come down and do their nasty business. Suck your blood. Steak and eggs this morning. You're getting excited about that, are you? Don't blame me, so am I. So, the diseases that mosquitoes can carry are just, the list is endless. Thankfully we don't get malaria here, but even without that, I mean every area's got its problems. I know a lot of areas in North America have got a problem with ticks and things like that. But mosquitoes are responsible for more deaths than any wild animal throughout the world. They carry malaria, dengue fever, something called, which I've had twice, dengue fever, not to be recommended, also called breakbone fever, chikungunya, Zika, which I've had once, and many others, yellow fever. Recently they found howler monkeys in the south of Trinidad here that they found them dead in the bush, and having examined them, they died of yellow fever. So they're carriers of yellow fever. it's mosquitoes that are the vector. So if a mosquito bites a howler monkey that has it and then bites you, then you go. Thankfully, there's vaccines for it. I'm all up to date on those, and everybody else here is also. It's actually compulsory for joining school. You're supposed to have your yellow fever. So it's unheard of in humans here and has been for decades. But it's still present in the howler monkey population due to mosquitoes. So not only do they make you a bit uncomfortable, but they've got long-lasting consequences. So it's the price to pay for it. If you're going to do it in the tropics, you have to take mosquitoes seriously. It's not like at home where it's the odd bite and you've got nothing to worry about. It's a serious business here. Thankfully, chiggers don't carry anything. They're just excruciating and will drive you mad for 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. So the rule is up off the ground, protect yourself from mosquitoes, so the mosquito repellent, but also sleep with a mosquito net. This hammock has got a built-in net, which I like, but I rarely use. There's something about hammocks that maybe many people won't realise, is that if you sleep in a hammock in the tropics, you want to be cool, so you're probably not using anything underneath you, no mattress. But your back presses up against the hammock due to your body weight and squeezes it nice and close, and mosquitoes can bite you from underneath. So a simple way around that is to either use a mat inside the hammock, or make yourself a mosquito net out of a piece of mosquito netting, and you just make it like a gym bag with a cinch string at each end. You may have seen that on 1 or 2 of my earlier videos. And you just put it, threadle your hammock through it, draw the strings tight at each end, and the net hangs below the hammock so the mosquitoes can't get to you. Remember, you can also dose the end of your hammock, the clues on your hammock, all the lines, you can dose those with permethrin or very strong DEET to discourage the insects. Other biting critters that give me the willies are spiders, centipedes and scorpions, and I think out of the 3 it's centipedes that worry me the most. They get enormous out here. Their bite is on a par with a scorpion bite. They're excruciating, and they're quite fast, and they can get anywhere. They can get up trees, and again you find them in the leaf litter. But something, contrary to popular belief, there aren't snakes. Snakes are here, but if you take precautions, you can avoid them, and they're not something that hunt you down. Mosquitoes will hunt you down. So, bit of twig in there already. Seasoned with twig. How's that? Not bad, eh? Curry double water. Spudley steak and eggs. There you go, Spuddles. Alright, so thanks Nigel, thanks for taking me on that one. Sorry it took me a little while to get it out. Things have been a little bit intense lately. I'm hoping to get a bit more out now. And the last thing is, a lot of my viewers may have noticed that I've crossed the 1,000 subscribers mark. It's taken me years and years to do that. I haven't actively pushed it. It's been a gradual process. And I'd just like to say thanks to everybody that's subbed, everybody that follows my stuff. It's great, it's fantastic. And I'm chuffed to bits to have crossed 1,000. And naturally I will do a subscriber appreciation. I just have to get on that. Alright Nigel, I hope that fits the bill for you. I hope something a bit useful there for folks that are perhaps have got a little bit of tropical wild camping or tropical camping in their future. Let's hope this dreaded lurgy finally subsides and we can all travel normally again. That would be nice. Alright then, so until the next one, Scout out.